I don't think it is a very hot take anymore to say that Red Dead Redemption 2 is my favorite video game of all time, 7 years after it released. Sure, it didn't win the Game of the Year award for that year, and many people leveled some fair and other times not so fair criticisms of the game. But nobody can deny the impact that this game had. Not only in terms of how it elevated the standards of what a video game narrative could be, and how immersive, emotional, and alive the world of Red Dead really feels, but I think it also demonstrated how deeply this media can resonate with its audience, and in my opinion, it did so in a way only a handful of other games have achieved so far. Red Dead Redemption 2 remains the most beautiful game I have ever seen, hands down. Everything about the art design is straight up surgical. The insane level of detail that graces every millimeter of this colossal map. I mean, there are thousands of videos on YouTube that go in depth over the smallest details of this game, to see if the power lines around the map connect to anything, or to find where its rivers originate. The romanticized realism that somehow drenches everything in the most beautiful lighting at all times has and will continue to blow me away every time I decide to revisit this game. With the departure of Rockstar co-founder and lead writer Dan Houser, I'm definitely rooting for GTA 6 to still have the most interesting, well-written story it can possibly have. But if I was a betting man, I think Red Dead 2 will likely go down as Rockstar's opus when it comes to narrative, because it's not even just the writing and performances of the main cast that knock it out of the park, but even random NPCs and strangers will have conversations with Arthur that will just completely rip your heart out.
My husband died a long time ago. Life is full of pain, but there is also love and beauty.
I guess I'm afraid.
There is nothing to be afraid of, Mr. Morgan. Take a gamble that love exists and do a loving act.
So then, with all this perfection, why is it that when booting the online, the game suddenly feels so empty? I mean, am I crazy? The same breathtaking world is still there. The snow, the sunsets, the towns, but somehow everything feels a bit more hollow. Suddenly, when you switch to the online, the people you meet don't talk much anymore, and of course, as our characters are mute, can't interact with them with the same depth as Arthur did.
You're just a waste of time, is all you are.
The list of animations and mechanics are cut shorter, conversations are fewer, and everything feels like it's been simplified, reduced, and just a little drained of the vast personality that its story mode component has. So in this video, I want to go over how Rockstar approached the online mode, what decisions led to its slow and sad decline, and how a world this beautiful ended up feeling so empty. This is the story of how Red Dead Online became one of the most tragic examples of wasted potential in modern gaming. As of 2025, it's safe to say that this game is pretty much abandoned now.
Kind of a shame when you go to Rockstar's website and you find out very quickly that their featured games are Grand Theft Auto 6, GTA 5, and GTA Online. They're literally both the same game. And of course, Red Dead Redemption 2, which is a game that they completely abandoned the online mode of.
Rockstar will drop the occasional playlist update post, or maybe this week you'll get triple money and activities, but after the Moonshiner Roll update, no new updates were really brought back to breathe fresh air into the game. And that's a real tragedy, because Red Dead Online had the perfect foundation to be something special. The ideal playground for the best role-playing experience you could share with friends. It was a kind of game that practically begged for a multiplayer expansion. Expectations were sky high, especially after the continued success of GTA 5 Online, which had evolved into a cultural monster of its own. So when Red Dead Online finally launched in beta on November 27th, 2018, almost exactly a month after the single player released, and after a few months of anticipation, people were ready for something extraordinary. But what they got instead felt unfinished. The world was still breathtaking. The same snow-covered peaks, the same vivid towns, the same sunsets burning across the plains, but somehow the world felt more hollow, which was ironic since now you were supposed to be able to experience it, with other players. But players quickly realized that for all of its potential, the online mode was pretty bare bones. Sure, the beta arrived with a modest offering of co-op missions, a few free roam activities, and a solid foundation for PvP and competitive play, but beneath that surface, there wasn't much to hold on to. There were only a handful of mission types. The first were stranger missions, given by NPCs scattered around the map. These were basically the typical GTA Online formula. Go to place B, clear out some enemies, retrieve an object or a vehicle, and bring it back to place A or to the stranger. The other missions available were a couple of free roam missions, small, random tasks found while exploring. These were mostly just hideout clearouts and other free roam activities which were already available in the story mode, such as hunting and fishing, but we'll get into those later on. And lastly, you had the typical deathmatch playlist, and that was pretty much it. But what's even worse, those were basically the only ways to make money in the game, and when your main source of income depends on cycling through the same repetitive chores, that initial excitement faded away pretty quickly. At its best, Red Dead Online still managed to spark moments of real excitement. The tension of riding with your posse into a gunfight, stumbling onto a gang hideout and clearing it out with friends, or diving into a deathmatch playlist that, while far from perfect, at least gave you a quick hit of action and chaos. To me, the gunplay wasn't the best, but the Wild West spin and the guns made it a bit more bearable. All in all, those flashes of fun showed what the game could be, but the gaps between those moments were wide. The world felt static and progression was painfully slow. With only a few mission types and limited ways to make money, most of your time was spent grinding the same short tasks over and over. The in-game economy didn't help either. Earning cash or gold bars took forever, and the smallest rewards made every purchase feel distant and exhausting. For a game set in such a rich world, the systems underneath made it strangely mechanical, like all the life had been drained out of the frontier. Still, fans stayed optimistic. After all, GTA Online had a very rough start too. It was shallow, undercooked, and half of the features barely worked when it launched. But over time, Rockstar had managed to turn it into a juggernaut through constant updates and community engagement. So naturally, people just assumed Red Dead would get the same treatment, and for a brief moment, it seemed like it might. When Rockstar celebrated the end of the beta, they rolled out a sizable update, 9 new missions that follow some sort of main plot for the online component, new weapons, new cosmetics, and the kind of structure players had been waiting for. For a while, it looked like they'd figured out how to blend the storytelling magic of the single-player experience with engaging multiplayer gameplay. When the full release finally dropped, it was genuinely exciting. The story had some potential, albeit the writing of these missions wasn't nearly as good as the writing of the main story, but it kinda gave our protagonist some decent introduction, and certainly better than, Lamar wants to bang you, so he brings you to Los Santos.
God damn, girl, you fine as a mother. Ooh, I mean that like not like in a stalker type way or nothing. I'm just saying, like, you do look good. We've been friends online for so long. It's time for us to take our relationship a little bit further. Like in like a sexual way or something. Oh, my bad. It ain't like that.
By the way, here's a gun. You won't see him again until 8 years later. But for Red Dead, your character starts in prison and is freed by some people who you're gonna have to start working for. And your character begins slowly but surely carving out a new life in the West. And I think it was a simple but more powerful setup than what we had before. The perfect silhouette for role-playing and personal storytelling. This could have been the start of something that let players live inside this vivid world, build their own identity, and breathe life into their own character's journey. But instead of leaning into that, Red Dead Online slowly started to kinda GTA 5 itself, if that makes sense. The systems shifted toward grinding, currency, and content loops rather than immersion and world building. That's when it started to lose what made Red Dead special. After finishing the main 9 missions, I remember taking my earnings straight to the gunsmith, bought a couple of revolvers, and felt like a real outlaw. Naturally, I wanted more heists, more stories, more reasons to stay in that world. So I went out to raid a gang hideout, and 30 bodies later, I checked the loot for each body, and it was 8 cents. 8 cents. That's when the realization started to sink in. The same way it does when you notice something's off in a new relationship. If GTA Online was kind of like your ex, then Red Dead Online was the new partner who seemed different at first, softer, deeper, full of promise, until you started seeing the same bad habits show up all over again. As you continue to play, you start to figure out the hard way how to actually make money in Red Dead Online. Not by robbing trains, holding up stores, or living the gunslinger fantasy we all signed up for, but by hunting and fishing, which, don't get me wrong, Red Dead's hunting system is still incredible. The animations, albeit a bit long, the tracking, the realism, it's all top tier. But it's kind of funny when you think about it. The most profitable thing to do in a game about outlaws is to be a glorified park ranger. The irony only got louder as time went on. The core fantasy of being an outlaw was tied to gunfights, bounties, robberies, which you can't do on a major scale like train or bank robberies like in story mode, and chaos. But those things I mentioned barely paid. And to be honest, once you'd earn enough to buy a decent gun, a horse, and maybe a fancy coat, the question became, what now? Go out and shoot some lawmen and lose money paying off your bounty? Raid another gang hideout and earn 8 cents per body? The world was stunning, but it didn't reward you for engaging with it like an outlaw. So how did Rockstar wanted us exactly to play Red Dead Online? Like 1900s businessman? That just doesn't sound as fun to me. Eventually, Rockstar tried to fix their overall lack of content by adding roles. The trader, collector, and bounty hunter roles. And on paper, that was a pretty good idea. Roles were supposed to give players direction, identity, and a steady way to make money. In practice though, it was a hit or miss. The bounty hunter role should have been the most exciting. Finally, a chance to live out that frontier justice fantasy. But again, at the time the update rolled up, there just weren't enough missions. You ended up doing the same legendary bounties over and over again, to the point where you could recite every line of dialogue before you rolled up to the target. The collector, on the other hand, quietly became the new meta for making money. You'd roam the map looking for rare items to dig up or collect, and it actually paid pretty well. It wasn't as thrilling as robbing a train. You can't do it. But it gave you a reason to explore parts of the map you've never really gotten the chance to see before. Riding through foggy swamps at dawn, or stumbling upon a random cabin deep in the woods just to find a tarot card. It felt more like a job than playing an actual game to have fun, but ultimately, the map is so good and the ambience is so perfectly crafted that only roaming around was a win in my book for Red Dead Online. And then there was the trader, which basically turned you into a cowboy Amazon Prime worker, hunting animals, delivering goods, and trying not to get robbed on your way to a camp that didn't even pay that well. It all worked, technically, but the fun was often buried under long grinds and repetitive tasks. It was kinda just a reskin of the delivery missions from the GTA Online businesses, and the same was for the Moonshiner, so I'm not even gonna get into that. I promise I will get into the roles with more detail later on, but my point is that as far as the economy goes, it just never recovered. If anything, it got more confusing. The game started with 2 currencies, cash and gold bars, and then Rockstar added role tokens for some battle pass type of progression, and later they introduced a 4th one, Capitali. 4 currencies in an 1890s cowboy game. It felt like someone had turned the Wild West into a corporate loyalty program. Also, as a side note, I think the daily challenges kind of served as the meta for farming gold, but doing them recently as I'm researching this video, they're not paying nearly as much as I remember I made with this, even with the multiplier. I genuinely need somebody to tell me if Rockstar actually nerfed one of the best methods to make some sort of profit in this dead games economy, because if they did, oh boy. And okay, I think it's time we talked about gold bars for a second. So gold bars are the microtransaction backbone of Red Dead Online, kind of like the shark cards from GTA. You can buy them with real money to shortcut your way through the grind. 25 bars for 10 bucks, 55 for 20. And if you're spending more than that, I don't know how to describe someone who would do that. You're just probably a little too invested. Now, technically, you can earn gold bars by playing the game. The problem is that Rockstar gives them out like they're made of diamonds and pain. You don't earn gold bars, you earn fractions of gold bars. A typical 20-minute mission will reward you with 0.1 gold bars. That's 1/10 of one. It's like shaving coins off a gold brick with a cheese grater. And if it was all about cosmetics, you know what, Rockstar? Have at it. Fortnite's had it for 10 years now. I don't need the cool black leather outfit with spikes, but where it really gets absurd is that you actually need gold bars to access the main content of Red Dead Online. I'm talking about, you know, the roles I briefly mentioned earlier. Yeah, well, given as they're basically the only last major update Rockstar added to this game, they kind of became the backbone of the whole online experience. The jobs that actually give your character some purpose. You'd think, you know, since there's not much else to do in this game, maybe Rockstar would have made them free. Nope. According to Rockstar, you're not a gunslinger anymore, buddy. You're a customer. Each role costs one of those 15 gold bars to unlock. 15. Let's do a little cowboy math here. Let's say you earn 0.1 gold bars for every 15-minute mission. Maybe you clear out a hideout, run a stranger quest, whatever. You're making about half a gold bar per hour if you're lucky. That means unlocking a single role will take 30 hours of non-stop grinding. 30 hours to start the supposed fun. Now, let's really dive into what those roles actually offer. Because, okay, to Rockstar's credit, this was the biggest content update they've ever added in the game. So we're gonna have to check it out in depth for this video. So as I mentioned, the roles update introduced 3 paths: trader, collector, and bounty hunter. On paper, it sounded great. A new way to make money, new progression systems, and the chance to actually specialize in the kind of outlaw you wanted to be. The bounty hunter was the obvious fan favorite. The classic gunslinger fantasy. Grab a wanted poster, track your target, and bring them in dead or alive, which just meant alive because you might as well not bother with how little they paid for bringing them dead, but we're gonna talk about that later on. The point is, it was simple, satisfying, and exactly the kind of thing that fits the world. But here's the problem. Let's say you do the job efficiently. Clean capture, no nonsense, 10 minutes flat. And this is how it goes.
All right, let's do this.
He's getting away. No way. My horse glitched out. Yeah, he's not coming.
You can count it, or you can trust me.
$10? I get $10? This is a man's life I get $10 for.
You can count it, or you can trust me.
So yeah, that's the kicker. You actually make less money for doing the mission faster. The game's economy is built so that your payout scales with how long you take to complete it, maxing out around the 30-minute mark or so. So if you wanted to make decent cash, you basically have to sit around and wait for the mission to reach the 30-minute mark. You could literally tie your bounty up, park outside the sheriff's office, and just stare at them for 20 minutes. You can kick them or hit them with a lasso for them to stay quiet. But your character doesn't even speak. You can't talk back. They can't have any sort of significant dialogue if they're talking to a mute. What if they offer you a better deal for letting them off and you can actually have a back and forth with them? You know, maybe letting them go would decrease your honor, but at least you can get a higher pay. Nope, shut up. Let me have my awkward 7-minute ride in peace. So yeah, there was essentially no logic to it. The game punished you for doing a better and more efficient job, which is pretty funny considering in GTA Online you can actually make more money if you complete the heists under a certain amount of time, as is often one of the things counting towards the Elite Challenge, but yeah, I digress. Meanwhile, the collector role, as I briefly mentioned, quietly took over as the best way to earn money. You ride across the map, picking up lost trinkets, fossils, jewelry, and honestly, it wasn't a bad gig. It gave players a reason to explore, to discover new places they might have never visited before, but it also turned the game into a checklist simulator. You weren't really living the life of an outlaw with this one. You were basically just running an antique shop with this weird lady. The trader role tried to revive hunting by letting you run your own supply business, kill animals, bring in pelts, make deliveries. It was decent, but it still boiled down to repetition, and without a posse or friends to help, it became the same long and lonely grind of every GTA business. And yeah, that's it for the biggest content update this game ever received. That's the tragedy of Red Dead Online. Everything almost works. The foundation is definitely there, but every system is just slightly tuned against the player. It's a world that looks alive but feels designed to waste your time instead of rewarding it. Oh yeah, I almost forgot. There's a couple more roles, but you're not gonna believe this. The new roles, 25 gold bars each. Okay, I'm gonna go over this real quick and then I'm gonna be done with this segment. The Naturalist is just kind of the hunting system on the story mode, but a little expanded. You can choose to hunt or sedate the animals. This one introduces a woman named Harriet. She'll sell you animal sedatives, lecture you about the sanctity of nature, and if you take too many samples, she can turn you into a deer, which is pretty cool, I guess. Just like the peyote plants in GTA 5. And then there was the prestigious bounty hunter license, because apparently Rockstar looked at the original bounty hunter role and thought, you know what this needs? A second paywall. It costs 50 more gold bars to unlock 10 extra levels, a few infamous bounties, and outfits that look like they were designed by an edgy high schooler who just discovered belts and spikes. It just felt like a cop-out, like Rockstar had completely run out of ideas at this point. And now, that's really it. That's basically all the content Red Dead Online ever got. Roles, reskins, a few missions, and a handful of cosmetics in the form of a battle pass system. It's been over 5 years, and that's the entire buffet. Meanwhile, Rockstar is sitting comfortably on the money printer called GTA 5 Online. It's made billions, literal billions, and its microtransactions and shark cards are apparently still flying off the digital shelves years later because for some reason there are people who buy them, as well as their new monthly subscription service GTA Plus, which naturally doesn't offer any benefits whatsoever to RDR players. So yeah, it makes sense that Rockstar puts most of its energy into GTA, but Red Dead simply deserves better. This isn't some niche side project. It's the 4th best-selling game ever made. 79 million copies sold. That's more than The Witcher 3, more than The Last of Us, more than Overwatch, any Call of Duty ever made, PUBG, Cyberpunk 2077, Elden Ring. Is the point clear enough, or do I need to list more huge titles? The world, this atmosphere, this potential, it's all sitting there, untouched, just waiting for someone to care again. And yeah, the economy was a huge part of why Red Dead Online didn't really stick the landing. But I feel like what could have really kept this experience going, though, wasn't the missions or the payout, it was the players. Sure, after you bought all the rolls with the gold you made, you could make your guns all golden. What is this obsession with gold in this game? We could have gotten a pirate expansion DLC in Guarma. But more so, I remember some of the best moments I've had in Red Dead Online weren't planned at all. They happened when I bumped into a stranger who didn't shoot me on sight, someone who waved or rode alongside me for a few minutes or helped me fend off a group of NPC bandits. Those little human interactions were almost magical. Because unlike GTA Online, where random encounters usually end with someone dropping a homing missile on your head, or I guess a nuke, Red Dead Online's player base used to feel different, you know? More patient, more grounded. Maybe it was the slower pace, or maybe just the kind of people the game attracted. And nowadays that's mostly still true. Mostly. I actually do think the hardcore grifters have long since moved back to GTA Online, leaving behind a mix of chill players and, well, hackers. Lots of them.
Excuse me?
But even then, it's wild how much those small, genuine interactions can still breathe life into a world that Rockstar itself seems to have left behind. It should have clicked for them there, if they had paid any sort of attention to the game's fan base. The real magic of Red Dead Online was these human moments. The game world might have been starved of content, but when people treated it as a living, breathing stage for roleplay, it suddenly became alive again. A lot of the player base that stuck around, maybe 30 people on a good night, are still here because of that. And obviously I'm joking, there's still a significant fan base to this game that any other online game would desire. That's what's most infuriating, I think. But Rockstar treats this game as if there was nothing here but tumbleweeds, man.
Haha, get it? Because of Tumbleweed, the town.
They could have given this game a genuine shot, but nope. More businesses for GTA Online. Oh, look at that, they're getting mentions. That's pretty cool. And in some ways, I feel like ultimately the reason they abandoned it is because the people who still play RDR online were not all there for the grind. Not for the updates and roles and sell missions, but for the shared experience of being part of this quiet, improvised world. You can see it in the way they play. It's the kind of community that thrives on imagination, not grind. But even if it did, it would have been cool to at least be able to buy a ranch or a house or something with the money made from the grind, other than golden guns
And cool outfits, bruh.
and Rockstar should have seen that. They know how powerful role-playing can be in their games. Look at how 5am exploded with GTA Online. How an entire culture formed around acting out new lives inside their world stemmed from that experience. That phenomenon got so big that Rockstar bought CFX.re just to be able to launch NoPixel 5 directly from the Rockstar launcher, and presumably, they're working on some sort of integrated version for it in GTA 6 Online, with their new modding engine, Rome. They understand that side of their audience now better than anyone, which is exactly why Red Dead Online feels like the missed opportunity of a lifetime. This world, with its slower pace, its grounded realism, its focus on human connection, would have been the perfect foundation for a deep, community-driven RP experience. Imagine player-run saloons, local sheriffs, small-town traders, ranchers, gamblers, outlaws forming alliances, all within a framework that encouraged cooperation instead of constant PvP chaos. The community already built that on its own. Through sheer love of the game, Rockstar just never gave them the tools to make it official. Now, imagine if the roles would have actually had a more role-playing approach. You know, it's in the name. We could have had lawmen role players responding to crimes in real time, traders getting ambushed by bandit posses, bounty hunters tracking down real players instead of random NPCs. It could have worked as a neat playground where players could create their own stories, and that's it. That could have been the whole point. And they also could have built events around it, stuff like full community roleplay updates, a town under siege, a train heist gone wrong.
We don't have train heists, guys.
A war between lawmen and outlaws that plays out across the map. They already know people love this kind of stuff. It's why RP servers in GTA blew up in the first place. Imagine an update where the world just shifts. A huge storm, the sky's darker, the dogs have gone crazy, the wolves are howling, and birds start flying.
Damn dogs gone crazy, and wolves howling, and birds flying.
Well, it's just the storm, John.
You start hearing the church bells in Saint Denis ringing for no reason. Then you see it. The dead start walking. Undead Nightmare. One of Rockstar's last true attempts at making DLC content that was actually just pure fun and not a new system to grind. This time, it could be introduced as a complete event. Introduce an actual survival system built into the world. Camps turning into strongholds, traders and bounty hunters teaming up because no one's safe. Suddenly, supplies actually matter. Food, ammo, medicine, all limited. Traders become the backbone of survival, trying to haul wagons through infested zones. Moonshiners brew tonics to keep people alive. Lawmen patrol the edges of towns, setting up safe zones and trying to hold back waves of infected. And it wouldn't have to break the tone of the world. I mean, it would do it in the same way Undead Nightmare did back in the first Red Dead, like a breath of fresh air. My point is, Red Dead's always had that supernatural edge, ghost stories, cults, UFOs and alien mysteries which continue to be predominantly featured in Rockstar titles. the mysterious side missions, Undead Nightmare could have played into that mythic campfire legend feeling. Like the frontier itself is fighting back against the people who tried to tame it. And I'm so disappointed that they never really brought back Undead Nightmare. They were hand to God teasing it. I remember playing back in like 2019 and seeing bodies around Armadillo with glowy eyes. I'm not making this up, guys. I think I have a picture of it in my phone even. Hey guys, feature me here editing this video. I actually found the picture. Look. And the reason I remember it so vividly while writing this was because I remember telling my friends like, yeah, this means Undead Nightmare is definitely coming to RDR2. And I don't know what you guys think, but to me they were clearly hinting something. But we never really got to see what it was. Unless it was this lame survival mission they teased for 6 years for no reason, which I highly doubt. There is so much unused real estate they could have built on. The snowy north could have a new frontier, towns, and survival missions. And down south, Mexico's already there. It's literally in the game, not fully modeled, and you can't even visit it by being out of bounds. There are tons of YouTube videos that teach you how to do it. But that amount of detail being out of bounds and way further from the player's field of view could only imply that they were considering bringing Mexico back at some point in development. You could have had new towns like Escalera, a full border region with its own law, missions, and even economy. And Guarma, man, Guarma's the biggest waste of potential in the whole series to me. You go there for like, what, 5 missions in the story mode? And almost nobody likes the Guarma bit on the story.
I do, personally, just FYI.
But I understand why people don't like it. People felt like it was a huge detour from the main story, but man, Guarma is gorgeous. It's unique. It has a whole roster of different animals, vegetation, and assets that are never to be seen in the game again. Imagine just making that a playable zone. An island for high-risk trading and smuggling, where storms, pirates, and wildlife actually threaten you. Maybe it could have been Red Dead's version of a survival expansion. Imagine a Castaway survival or a pirate update. If you think it's too crazy, you kinda just had to be there, man, where DLCs and expansions used to be fun. Everything they ever needed was already sitting there. The systems, the world, the tone. Red Dead Online could have actually been their next big thing. Only slow, human, and alive. Clearly, it was begging to be different from GTA Online, but it could have been a great game, only if they would have understood sooner that it was meant to be a game where the most memorable stuff doesn't come from missions or updates or making money, but from the random interactions you have out there. Because at the end of the day, that's what Red Dead Online became. Not a playground for chaos, but a quiet frontier where you could still find something genuine. If they lean into that, if they build proper roleplay systems around it, Red Dead Online could have evolved into something truly special. Towns could have come alive with real player jobs, deputies, ranchers, traders. The world could have felt connected, like every person you met had a reason to exist. That to me is the kind of multiplayer that would have stood the test of time for this game. Not one built around grinding and currencies, but around stories that write themselves. Red Dead didn't need another shark card economy or battle pass. It needed heart. It needed Rockstar to look at what made people love the single player. The world, the atmosphere, the quiet, and realize that all of that could have thrived online too if they just trusted the players to make it happen. And that's the tragedy of Red Dead Online. It had everything it needed to be unforgettable, but it just never got the chance. And that, unfortunately, is how Red Dead Online became a tragic story of wasted potential. If you enjoyed this video, you know what to do. Like, subscribe. Let me know in the comments if you enjoy my commentary. I personally enjoyed making this video a lot. I had it in my head for a while now, so I'm glad I finally put my thoughts into words regarding Red Dead Online. Also, YouTube is rolling out this hype meter function where apparently you can give high points to videos from small content creators that you feel they deserve a little more attention. So if you feel like it, make sure to hype it up. I also made a huge video covering interesting, not so well known facts about GTA 5. So check that out if you're interested. And that's it for me for this video. Stay safe. Peace.
You're just a waste of time, is all you are.
You can count it, or you can trust me.